What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Roach podcast. So, I got a very special guest with me today, Nicholas Ashakah. Did I say that correctly, Nicholas?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, so Nicholas is a alumni little brother at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Toronto. And first of all, thank you for taking the time to do this. Okay,
Yeah, of course, of course.
and the reason I wanted to do it. So the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Toronto came to my attention when I saw them on CP24. And it was crazy because I saw that there is a wait list of over 400 kids because I guess you need more volunteers, right?
Yeah. I think the waitlist situation has been a big problem for a while, and I think I saw the same article that you mentioned, um, concerning like yeah, right now, I think it's about 400 kids in the GTA waiting for a match.
Mhm. So now you were a part of this program, and we'll get into a bunch of things, but I want to start with you first. How old were you when you joined the Big Brother Big Sisters of Toronto?
I would have been 5 or 6. So honestly, it's very hard to remember a time that I wasn't a part of that program, to be honest with you, or
Wow.
in contact with anyone from there.
Mhm.
I joined I think I would have been in grade one, and I had met Pat at the time. My mentor, my big brother, uh, honestly, just family at this point. Uh, so yeah, all the way back when, about 20 years at this point.
How did you do you even remember how you ended up finding out about this program or?
I do. So at the time, I was far from the perfect student at all. I think a lot of the time I was acting up in class, to the point where they needed to put me in separate groupings, or they would have people come and play with me throughout the day, just because if I needed to get my energy out, stuff like that. And I think it was just so much so a disruption to the class. They advised stepping into Big Brothers, and I think my mother was the one, or not. I know she was the one that signed me up at the time, thinking that it would be beneficial, and thankfully, it most certainly was for myself.
Mhm.
And I think the earlier ages, I can't necessarily remember too much. I think if Pat were here, he'd tell you that I probably hid from him when I first met him. A strange man coming
Mhm.
to play board games or build Lego with me for an hour at school. I think it was once or twice a week at the time. Uh, and then as it progressed, obviously, we got more comfortable with each other.
So at what point did you start to realize that this was something you wanted to be a part of consistently?
Consistently. Ooh, I think honestly, the stability for me was the biggest thing. I think between my living conditions at the time and moving schools so constantly, it became a point of comfort and assurance that I had someone. No matter where I went, he would always reach out. He'd make sure that he knew if I was okay, if not, even if I wasn't, I knew that he would always be that point of contact that I could go back to and express all of my issues to him. So I think as the match continued over the years, it definitely became like, oh, he's not going anywhere. Okay, so I think I'll stick it out with him through and through.
So if you don't mind me asking, what do you mean when you say or when you talk about your living conditions?
Single parent household, living at the time at, it was Sherburne and Shooter was the second one I can remember, and then now the other place has been demolished. But 14 Blevins place, which I think was uh, Shooter and River, just Moss Park, Regent Park area. Not the best. Definitely saw a lot of different things that I didn't need to. No child needs to see, honestly. Um, and it kind of became my norm at some point, and I think it didn't feel like anything until later on when I realized that a lot of that wasn't okay.
Mhm. So at what point, because it's funny because I grew up in a single parent household as well. And I think when you get to a certain age and you live in certain neighborhoods, you start to realize there are certain things that you see that aren't the norm for most people, right? Is there a point where you started to realize that?
I moved out of that general area to where I live now when I was about 12, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
12, 13, if I'm correct. And honestly, not to say that the area I'm in right now is any better or is substantially better. Actually, it's definitely better. But I think seeing that contrast was definitely an eyes-opening experience. And even going back there, because I went to school downtown, I would need to go to and fro, whether it was a errand I was running or to see a friend or to whatever the situation would be, that I would find myself back in that area. You start to realize, especially as you grow older, I'm sure as you know yourself too, it's just that you go back and you look and you think, I wouldn't want to raise my child here. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want to have or show a child any of what I'm seeing now. Even to this day, friend had a birthday party there, and the things that I was seeing, this was maybe 2 years ago, I was seeing on the street, I was scared walking around at my grown age now. So I can't imagine back then.
What do you think it does to your psyche though? Like when you're in those neighborhoods or environments, right? And you don't have
Mhm.
that big brother per se or just a mentor to show you some kind of guidance. What does it do to your psyche with the things that you're learning, the things that you're seeing, the kind of people you're around?
Uh, I think as far as what it would do to your psyche, I definitely think it would become a standard or become a norm to you. I do think that there is a level of dependency and how people fall back to those norms, for lack of better wording, honestly. And it puts stress. I feel like a lot of those adverse child events that people live through, they don't necessarily realize it until later on, how it affects their relationships,
True,
their,
true.
whether it's with another significant other, friendship, or even the relationship with themselves. A lot of mental stress, honestly, that I experienced after the fact, and with my own living conditions with my mom and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I don't want to say that everyone experiences the same thing, but I do think eventually it catches up to you, in a negative way, no matter what aspect of life.
So what's your opinion on the youth today? Do you find that they are facing, the same challenges that we kind of faced when we were younger, or you think they're doing better, doing worse? What's your opinion on that?
I think there's always going to be some level of struggle, no matter what generation we see growing up. I think for mine, it was more so a sense of location and stability in terms of a single parent household and what that would mean, for myself. I don't think that aspect has changed.
Mhm.
But I think as far as facing adverse challenges now, I can definitely speak to maybe the early adults, or like 16, 17, 18, having trouble finding jobs and stuff like that. I know that's been
Yeah.
a really large issue. Outside of that, I feel like similar struggles are faced, consistently, generation to generation.
Mhm. So when you were at Big Brothers Big Sisters, at what point did you realize you were really beginning to change in regards
When,
to at least how your mentor was affecting you?
for myself, it's it's kind of funny. I have a pinpoint memory of this. So, it'd be around 10, grade four. Uh, I had at that time, we're learning times tables, and my teacher at the school I was attending, would reward us. We would get up to 12. We would get an ice cream sundae. I think I was, and again, not I think, I know I was the only person in that class that was not able to get a sundae, because with me, she said she wanted me to have a day without getting in detention before she can reward me with the sundae, even though I had already done the work necessary to reach that. And a
Mhm.
lot of Pat's teachings, a lot of his quotes in the back of my mind, I think, and just wanting to impress someone who had always stood up for me and been there for me, kind of pushed me to make that change. And honestly, I know you'd slip and fall as you'd grow up to in grade 5 and 6. I can't say I was perfect either, but it was definitely a mental switch there that I needed to do better for where I was at.
Is there any other specific days that stand out to you that you could think of off the top where you're like, wow, that day really, really made a difference here?
Uh, as far as specific days, not necessarily. I do
Mm,
have quotes that he'd always say, stories about his own childhood and growing up, and kind of relating it back to my experiences until I had to leave that area for the better.
mhm.
Um, but no, I think his mentorship kind of stuck with me day by day, and it wasn't anything specific after that. It was more so of like a slow build into who I am today.
Now, talk to me about life advice because you did mention that he had certain sayings and phrases that he would tell to you. Any that you can remember off the top?
There is one that so basically Pat, he is a big nerd. Works in the finance world. He would help me with my grade 12 physics homework years and years after I've already being far removed from that.
Mm.
Um, he he would take me to go and see Marvel movies, but then also go and take me to see World War II documentaries. He's a very well versed individual. So one of the things he always used to say, and I don't think he realized that it was imprinting on me at the time. He would say, "Always know a little bit about everything, just enough to make fun of it." And I think in his mind as well, he's a very comedic person. He likes to poke fun at things. He likes to make sure that nothing's too serious, or well, at least when it doesn't need to be. And I took that as trying to better myself and have some level of curiosity for everything around me.
Yeah.
And I honestly think as that is a quote that I still try to live by. Anything that I don't know, I try to
Mhm.
research or find or better my understanding on stuff like that.
Has it helped you change the lives of kids growing up now?
Kids growing up now, as far as community work like that, I don't know if I can say that I have changed. I hope I would have, whether it's through prior interviews or speaking at Big Brother's events, their yearly galas that they hold downtown.
Mhm.
I can't say outside of my own family, my own cousin and stuff, because I am a single child as well. Outside of helping my own cousins, I would hope that there would be some sort of advice or thing that I said that somebody resonated with.
So, what did the whole process teach you about yourself?
Ooh, about my, you know what? I think about myself genuinely at a lot of the time it would just be self-doubt. It would be this feeling of I'm not good enough because of where I came from, or that I deserve less than the other person that may have grown up in a different situation. And I feel like Pat did a very good job at correcting those thoughts, and honestly make from him I saw a lot of the true definition of what I think hard work is
Mhm.
from what like a lot of how I mirror or reflect off of that now is genuinely because of him.
Yeah.
So I see myself definitely in a much better positive light now, and knowing that I can work hard to achieve whatever it is that I want in life is a huge lesson that I would hope to instill on others, family or otherwise, and hopefully one day be a big brother myself.
Mhm. So, when it comes to the younger generation and a big brother, big sister trying to make impact, right? What do you think is the best way, if there is one? I don't know because everybody has a different way with how they teach and try to mentor whoever they're mentoring. But what do you think is the best way to try to influence or help or change the mind of a younger person?
If I were to speak to my own personal experiences, I think it was the constant stability for myself. I don't think there was anything that Pat did upon immediately meeting me that was like something clicked in my head that this person is here for me. I think it was just the repetitive showing up. Uh, Even when I was younger, he would say, I don't remember this because I was a kid, but he would say that a lot of our meetings, I would just never smile. And honestly, I think the resilience for him to keep showing up, especially if I wasn't receptive to whatever games he had brought to play with at the time or energy that he brought, it showed a level of dedication that I think is definitely necessary for the mental development of a lot of youth today.
So, what do you believe is the core reason why we have so many kids that need big brothers, big sisters?
Ooh, that need them. Honestly, I feel like a lot of communities with parents or living situations that just aren't able to live up to a standard that would be appropriate for a child to develop in. Unfortunately, and there's a lot of different factors to it. It falls short of the ideal.
Mhm.
So in that case, I do feel like with any child, honestly, it takes a community, and I feel like adding to
Yes.
that community through someone who has dedicated their time to develop that said person is a positive anytime.
Mhm. And when we first started the show, we talked about there being a need for more big brothers, big sisters. Why do you think right now we're finding a harder time um, being able to attract more people to volunteer in that capacity?
Honestly, I feel like people don't volunteer as much anymore, or and the reasons for that are vast, but
Mhm.
I know there is a shortage right now of male volunteers, specifically with Big Brothers. And I don't want to speak about every volunteering opportunity. I think for Big Brothers in this case, it feels like raising a child. And I think if you go back to like a lot of gender roles, like the nurture and the caregiving aspect for a lot of men, they feel like they may not have a lot to give or they may feel scared of that. Uh, it's terrifying, sure. And I've heard countless testimonies from a lot of big and little brothers alike at a lot of these different events. And the same thing I keep hearing about, I was scared to do it, but at the end, I found it rewarding for myself. Um,
Mhm.
and they took away a lot from it as well. The big brothers or the big sisters in that case. Um, so I
So,
feel like, yeah, of course,
so if you had to make a pitch to, and this will be my last question. I'm not going to keep you long. I'm going to close you out on this question.
of course.
If you had to make a pitch, right,
Mhm.
to the men and women who are going to watch this podcast,
Mhm.
and they're contemplating being a big brother or a big sister, what would be your pitch to them to try to kind of get them over the edge?
Honestly, I would say try to put yourselves in those positions. A lot of these kids, and they may even relate to the situation that you grew up in. They're looking for that level of stability. They're looking for someone to really be in their corner. And you, even if you feel like you may not have a lot to offer at the time, even if you feel like your life might not be stable enough to introduce another factor, another element in it, you have no idea how rewarding it is to a lot of people and a lot of children coming from environments that every single day it's a different thing, it's a different problem, it's a different situation that they may be going through that they may have been silent about. I know I was for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And genuinely, there's been such little in my life that I can say that has been as stable and that has been as rewarding as getting to know and have Pat in my family. Uh, it has made such a world of difference, and you don't have to have a lot to go into this program and offer it to someone. You yourself being there is already enough to a lot of children. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, just think. you may even end up coming, and you probably will come out of it, honestly, gaining a lot more than you thought from on your own end.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rewarding experience that I myself am going to partake in once I'm more stable in the next coming year, next couple 2 years with school and everything. And I would preach to anybody that would listen, definitely think about volunteering for something like this.
Man, now I want to meet Pat. You're speaking amazing about this.
Oh yeah,
Pat, man. But Nicholas, thank you, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And I'm hoping this is going to reach people and change their minds and hopefully push them over the edge after hearing you. It's a very important topic. And I think we probably need to have these conversations a little bit more often. And I was pretty sad, to be honest, to hear about how many kids are on that wait list.
Yeah.
That's what stood out to me the most, man. And these kids on that wait list, they're looking for something.
I honestly, it's always heartbreaking, because a lot of the years, every single year I'll go and I'll hear at their galas that they host, I think every single June, about how many kids are still waiting for those matches. A lot of them, these small boys, too much energy in class, whatever the situation may be. It's sad, definitely.
It is, man. So I'm hoping this podcast that we just did in your voice makes a big difference. Nicholas, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. So grateful to be here.
Take care.
You too. Take care.